So I never chose motherhood consciously. I became pregnant, and um, and it was an adventure from the beginning. I mean, I spent months worried. Every patient I saw that had an anomaly, I would run back to the on-call room and do an ultrasound to make sure that my baby was okay. It was a constant like,
And wide.
oh my gosh, all these terrible things can happen to my baby, can happen to me. I had my will done before I went into labor. Um, so there's nothing like being part of the trade to really see the enormity of it. And, um, and I also saw how challenging it was to the body to carry a pregnancy. It was way more than I had imagined. And having delivered all these women and having been a physician on the other side and being pregnant myself, it was a very different thing. And like many women, watching women in labor, I was terrified. And I was terrified that I wasn't going to stand up to the pain. So I had already had a plan about having an epidural immediately, and we weren't going to even try. And then when my son was born, I had this extraordinary experience of having this creature in my arms and feeling this incredible love like I had never felt for anyone before. For this beautiful creature in my arms. And having the experience of my body changing. I remember the first time milk came out of my breast, I was amazed. I mean, I'd been walking around with these two breasts, putting bras on and off every day for years, commenting, are they big, are they small, but never understood what they were for. And all of a sudden they take on a life of their own and they're producing milk and they're doing their own thing. It was extraordinary. And I was working pretty intensely when Alex was born. And a week after he was born, I had a big meeting to go to. And my mother came with me. And I had this little baby, and I was trying to look for places to breastfeed, which at the time was not so simple. And so finally, it all gets done, and the night before I'm with my professor and we're going over the presentation and I have Alex with me and I'm rehearsing the talk. And so I hand Alex to Professor Pear and Alex has bowel movement. And I'm like, Bill, just change the diaper and I'll keep going. And he had never changed a diaper in his life. So he's like, I don't know what we're doing here. And I'm rehearsing the talk and he's struggling with the diaper. And the whole scene was really extraordinary because it was like this whole parenting thing was taken out of context into this totally different context, where somehow this talk was of ultimate importance, but changing the diaper became the hardest thing ever. So then the next day I give the talk and I'm on the podium and my mother's in the back room, at the end of the room with the baby. And I'm done and people applaud. And as people are applauding, my breasts are squirting milk like there's no tomorrow. And I am soaked. Like there's streaks of milk going down my front, and the whole thing seemed, you know, obviously hilarious, but so out of control, that the breasts got so excited that they were being applauded. They were like squirting like crazy. And then, breastfeeding and hearing your baby swallow the milk was one of the greatest pleasures I ever got. Because for the longest time, he wasn't latching on. I wasn't making the milk. He wasn't swallowing it. The whole thing felt like it would never come together. And then when you could hear the satisfaction that your body was feeding another body and that they would, you could hear him swallow and eat and be satisfied. It was like, it was extraordinary. And it's like nobody ever told me that. And then when the child is small and the first time you take them to the sea and you watch them see the ocean, or the first time they see snow, or the first time you take them skiing and they're skiing, or the first time they swim, or, all these, the first Christmas, you know, all these beautiful moments where you're rediscovering through the eyes of innocence, something that you've taken for granted. So there were all these discoveries of motherhood that I had absolutely no idea. And I also knew that I did not know how to be a mother. I mean, it was so clear to me that I had no idea what I was doing. And it takes a long time to really not only see who they really are, and how different from you they are, and what makes them tick, and what they love, and how they show up in the world. And it took me a long time to really appreciate that, to let go of this wanting to mold them, wanting them to be this way or that way, or having these ideas of what the perfect child would be, and really enjoy them, like really enjoy how unique they were and they are. And this bond between a mother and a child is almost incomprehensible. It's unexplainable, because it feels deeper than any choosing, than any volitional love. It's like an instinctive, it's this instinctive movement that you would give your life for theirs in a heartbeat. Not because you're generous, but it just feels, it feels obvious. And I don't know where that comes from, but it's such an extraordinary thing that we as humans are capable of that. That if you see the forces that allow one to mature as a parent, in the end, it ends up being this play between surrender and love. That it stays there's a backbone that is required, to tolerate whatever misery they go through. And at the same time, there is a love that's willing to be with it. And the beauty of watching them find their way,